Hi, we're going to pick up where we left off in chapter 7 with tutorial 7.3 out of the book that I'm using here for this class. This is completing the seating chart project. So they've already got the interface ready for us. So in this one, what we're going to do is when you click on the button, display price button, it will display the price for a specific seat that you select based on the row and column. And so we're going to have a table that's in the book on setting up the prices on here. So let's go ahead and get started with this. So we're going to open up the project, and I'll have to navigate to the right chapter because I don't have that on here. Chapter 7, seating chart. Okay. And go back over here to the form. Should come up here with that error message about the .NET 6.0. Yep, there it is. So go ahead and clear that off of there. So this is the interface that they have on this. This particular plane has 6 rows, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 4 columns, 0, 1, 2, 3. And what we're going to do is set up a two-dimensional array to be able to type for the user to type in a row and a column and then come up with the price for that. So let's go ahead and we'll double click on the display price button here. And get to the code that I'm going to be using for this. So in here, we're going to have 2 integer variables. We're going to have an int row, and as a column, we're going to do COL for the column. Then we're going to have 2 constants, both ints. One's going to be max row, that's going to be equal to 5. And we're going to have constant int max COL, and that's going to be equal to 3. Then we're going to set up our array decimal. And then after the decimals, we're going to do bracket, comma, and bracket, so it knows it's doing a two-dimensional on there. And then prices is going to be the name of it. We're going to equal to, and then the values that we want to put in here. So we're going to have 2 curly braces, and then the first row prices are going to be 450M, comma, 450M, comma, 450M, comma, and 450M. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Move over to the outside the curly brace, put a comma in, hit enter, and I'm going to tab over to kind of line it up a little bit. Let's see there. Okay, so we want to do the next row is 425M and all the way across. Again, this time we're going to do a, let's see, needed a starting one. I forgot that. So let's put the starting one in over here. There. Okay, and then the ending one is, put another one in here so I don't forget it, comma. Okay, tab over. Put in the starting one for this row. And these are going to be 375. Ending curly brace, comma, and tab over again. Okay, for this one they're going to be 375 again. Oops. Okay, so we have our ending curly brace on that one, comma, curly brace for the next one, which is 350. That's the last one. So we can go over here, press enter, tab over, and put in the closing, whoops. I put it all the way over there. I don't like it over there, so I'm going to tab this over so it lines up with this one. Semicolon, okay? Nothing's underlined in red. This one here is off by 1, so I'm going to take it out there. And then I'm going to put spaces in here for that. These are all lined up on there, make it look nice. Don't have to do that, but I went ahead and set that up. So after that, then we want to go through our if statement on this. So if int dot try parse our row text box dot text comma out row and then we need to check our next one if int dot try parse. This will be our for a column, so column text box dot text comma out column. So both of those work. Then we got to do our if row is greater than or equal to 0 and row is less than or equal to max row. We need to check again then if column is greater than or equal to 0 and column is less or equal to max column. So all that's in there for us already, which is nice. Then what we want to do, everything has the correct numbers and everything in there. So what we want to do then is price label dot text. Get this out of my way here. Is going to be equal to prices bracket row comma column dot to string, and we want to format this as currency. Now we start working on all the else's. Whoops. This one, else. Message box dot show. So column, oops, there we go, column must be 0 through THROUGH. In my quote, put a space in there in the quote, plus max column. Okay, that ends that else. So we come down here to this if statement, else. This is going to be another the same one, except it's going to be the max row. So message box dot show. Row must be 0 through space and quote space plus max row. Okay, so that ends that else. So we go down to this if statement. This if statement here. Else on this one. another message box. Message box.show. Enter an integer for the column. Oops. Okay, and then this if statement here. Message box.show. Enter an integer for the row. Okay, that's the whole thing. Now, one thing that we could have done is do this through a method where we passed the row and the column into a method, or we actually had the method get the row and the column and check to make sure everything's okay. Somehow like that, rather than having this all in the under the button itself. But we went ahead and did it this way. Let's go ahead and do the exit button. So I'll switch over. Stop close. Let's run this and see what happens. There we go. So let's put in for the row 2, for the column 3. Click on display, price, and we get what, $3.75. Row 2, column 3, $3.75. That was our $3.75 row. Okay, so let's put in then R3. Then we get that must be an integer for the row. So we'll go back up here and put in a 0 C. Must be an integer for the column. 0 7. Column must be 0 through 3. I misspelled through on there. Got the G and the H backwards. So go back through and put a 2 in here. Go up here and put in a 8 for the row, and it comes back, and row must be 0 through 5. So everything works on there. So we can go ahead and exit out, and that one, everything's great. So hopefully you got yours working on there. So next one we're going to do is to complete the test score list project. So this one's already has the interface completed for us. So we'll read a set of test scores from a file into a list. The file has already been created for you. The test scores are displayed in the list box control. The average test score is calculated and displayed, as well as the number of above average test scores and below average test scores. So to find the above and the below averages, we have to first calculate out the average and then go back and look at the test scores and make the comparisons. So in this particular case, we're going to want to put those into an array in order to check that out. So let's go ahead and get that opened up here and get started. So the name of this is test score list. And again, we'll get that error message on here. There we go, and get rid of that. Okay, so let's take a look at the code that we're going to be putting in here. So first thing we need to do is double click on the get scores, and that's not where we're gonna start with by putting another creating our own method in here called read scores. We're not passing anything back out, so it's going to be a private void read scores, but we're passing in, this time we're going to use a list. So it's list, and then angle bracket, int, because we're going to do ints in here, and then scores list. Okay. So in here then we're going to do a try. Do a stream reader, input file. We can do this all in one line if we want to now. File.openText, and it's going to be testscores.txt. So I'm going to use a while loop to go through this. So while not, exclamation point, input file dot end of stream, scores list dot add, I'm going to do an int dot parse, input file dot read line. Okay, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Looks like we got them all on there. Oops, sorry. Get out of here. Back up. So then what we're going to do is input file.close. After that, we need to do our catch. Exception EX. And then our message box dot show EX dot message. Okay. So that's the one that we need. That's just going to read all that stuff in here. Notice how it's grayed out in here because we haven't used it yet. This is underlined in green because if we never go into the while loop, it won't be used. But we're going to assume that we're going to get in there, so we're not going to worry about that. Okay. So now we're going to do another method. We go down to here. Wrong language there. Private void. This one is to display scores. Passing in our list again. And scores list. So in here we're going to do a for each. So for each int score in scores list test scores list box dot items dot add score. Okay, so that's all typed in there for us, really nice and neat. Okay. So that ends our display there. Now we got another one to do. We need to calculate out our average. So go down here, scroll down so we can see this a little better. This one's going to pass back a double. Again, we need our list. Average is underlined because we don't have a return statement yet. And total equals 0. Double average. And then for each int score in scores list, total plus equals score. Okay. Once we get that, then average is going to be equal to double total. We want to convert that to a double so that if we do it as total, then it's going to do it as an integer, and we end up losing any decimal that we have on that. So, and then we're going to divide that by scores list dot count. Okay. And then once we get the average, then we can return average. Our next one then is to calculate or to display or find rather all of the scores that are above the average. This one's going to return an int. Actually, it's going to do the ones, how many there are. I would have preferred to do it with the ones that are above, but since we don't have names, it's okay to do it this way. So we're going to do an int num above equals 0. And I don't know if you noticed that or not, but it said int total equals 0. It was trying to anticipate what you wanted to do. We're going to use num above instead. We have a double ABG that be equal to average score list. We're going to calculate out the average from here, call the average one to get that and get the average for this. For each int score in scores list, if score is greater than ABG, there you go, score greater than ABG, then num above plus plus. Whoops, there we go. Oh, that's all we got in there. And then all we need to do is return our num above, which will be after the for loop here. So that ends that one. And now what we can do is our get scores button event handler. So in here we're going to have a double. It's going to be equal to average score. Whoops, no equal on there. And then we're going to have an int num above average and num below average. Okay. We don't have a method for the below, but we can figure that out. If we know how many are above, then the rest of them have to be below, right? Except for the ones that are equal to average. Okay, so we're going to have a whoops. It's okay, I'll get rid of that later. VAR scores list equals new list bracket int, and then we need to end it with parentheses. Okay, we're going to call read scores, passing in scores list. We're going to display scores, and I've got display results. Let me see if I put that down right. Nope, it's display scores. There we go. And that one we're going to pass in scores list. Okay, then we need to get the average score. So average score is going to be equal to average the average score is going to be equal to average, passing in scores list, above average label, oh, in the wrong place here, sorry. Average label text, average label dot text will be equal to average score dot toString, formatting it to N1. We're going to do num above average will be equal to above average scores list, and then above average label dot text be equal to above average dot toString. Oh, it should be num above average, sorry. Dot toString, forming out it for N1, I believe. No, we're not formatting it to that, so. Now, I did leave out the below average, so we're going to go back and put that in. That's why it's underlined there. Okay. And then below average time text equals num below average dot toString. Okay, so let's go back up and get that put in here. I just kind of overlooked that. Gonna be similar to the above average. Okay, so this one we're gonna have an int num below equals 0. Double avg equals average scores list. We do that for each int in score list. If score is less than average, num below plus plus, that ends that. Also ends the for each. Return num below. Okay, so that's in there. That was the whole thing for that. Okay, so why? Oh, below average. Must have picked the wrong one on there. Below average. There we go. Okay, so that's why I go back and check and see if there's anything underlined in red. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to run this and put in some scores or some, or just do the calc. It'll pull up the file and run this, so we don't have to put anything in. There we go. So all I got to do is click on Get Scores, and there's the scores over here. Calculates out the average is 80.7. The number of scores above average is 11, and the number of scores below average is 9. Okay. So you can type all those in and figure and check it out to see if you want if you think that's working or not. We didn't do the exit button. I'm not going to worry about that on this one. You should know how to do that by now with as many as we've done. So I'm going to stop this video with this one, and I hope you got some good information out of these. Bye.